AskReddit by Ilakatha Cold 65. What poor people food was taken over by rich people? Pho used to be cheaper until word got out. Same as banh mi. I live in Melbourne, and historically you'd be able to get them for $5.7. Now it's common for anywhere from $11.15. Food trucks. Very true. There is a burger one in my area that serves almost $20 burgers. They're decent burgers but not $20 decent. Fucking wild. Beef brisket comes to mind. Yeah, I think my parents spent $90 on a brisket for Christmas dinner one year. Probably the most expensive Christmas dinner I've ever eaten, but it was delicious. All the weird parts of the animal. Oxtails. Quinoa. Yep. And now they have expensive bags dishes of half quinoa, half rice. They cutting quinoa like drugs lol. Crawfish has gotten a little crazy the past decade or so. It's actually worth running a few traps and boiling them at home again. Lol. Fajitas, skirt steak, and chicken wings. I remember 10-cent wings. Brown bread. White flour used to be far harder to get, so white bread was expensive. Poors ate the brown. Once white was mass produced it switched and poor people ate the white while rich folks got the healthy whole meal. This is classic elite behavior. Once something becomes too prole and common, they move on just to be different. Even their beliefs and politics work like this. Chicken wings. They used to be so cheap when I was a kid, we'd use them as crab bait when fishing off docks. Now they're stupid expensive for one of the shittier parts of the chicken. Upside now that wings are ridiculous, boneless skinless chicken breasts, the stupid pricey thing about 5 years ago, are dirt cheap. I get them for $1.89 pounds. Wings can got for $8.99 a freaking pound. Avocado toast. My grandfather used to talk fondly about only being able to afford cassava bread and avocado in his youngster days, and now it's a whole fancy thing. It left a wild generation unable to afford houses, I hear. Oxtail. Spanish mackerel. Chicken wings. Hanger steak. Polenta, grits and mahi. I'll add lamb shanks to this list, although I'm Australian and I know lamb isn't as big in the US. Tacos, honestly. I used to be able to get 3 tacos for like $5 downtown less than 10 years ago. I went to a new taco restaurant once, ordered like 3 tacos and a drink and it was $20. I never went back. Jim my cheap authentic tacos. All these comments and ain't seen pork belly. Used to be scrap basically, now it's glorified and more expensive than gold. Pork belly in East Asian cuisine has been the cornerstone since ever. You could even gauge inflation by watching its price on the wet market fluctuating day by day. Fish and chips. It's a hunk of white fish with a potato for a side. Minimal seasoning. Fried in whatever oil you have around and served on a piece of yesterday's newspaper. 20 years ago it cost $5, now it costs $25. In the UK fish and chips is usually cod or haddock, which is pretty expensive now due to overfishing. Most fish in general is getting more and more expensive because there's nowhere near as much fish as 20 years ago. Southern food anywhere except for the South. Us. Came to say this. I moved out of the South into the NW. Southern food had a big moment in the food scene, but it was expensive. No child, cheesy grits, red beans and rice and fried okra are poor people food. I should not be asked to pay $15 for a small bowl of grits. Fried chicken. Now you got bougie ass chicken places charging $15 for 3 tenders or mayo. The grocer near me sells 8 pieces for $5 on Mondays, Dark only, and it better than 99% of chicken places around. Lobster. Was waiting for this one. Lobster was considered poor man's food. It was so widely available but not as appealing as fish. It is in all senses an overgrown insect that rich people way back in the day considered to be repulsive. It wasn't until the invention of the railroad as well as clever sales tactics that the tide turned on the view of lobster as an upscale meal. BBQ. Especially brisket. Please leave my trash cuts alone, I need protein. Kale. Came here to look for this. In parts of Northern Europe, kale is one of the few veggies that withstands frost. So in winter we'd have it boiled to death and mashed with potato and mustard. Some meatballs on top, another cheap feed, a little pond for the gravy, a solid filling meal for a few euros. Seems out of reach these days with the prices charged for it. Brussels sprouts. Tell me why I grew up in the 2000s hearing that Brussels sprouts are every kid's most hated vegetable from the grocery store. But now I'm an adult and eat at fancy restaurants and they all have Brussels sprouts on the menu as an appetizer. I'm wondering, when did Brussels sprouts become fancy food? When they genetically modified the glucosinolates out of them and found out they didn't have to be bitter. This happened in our lifetime. The Brussels sprouts you used to eat are not the same we eat now. Edit. Yes, I know. I used GMO and not selectively bred. I am a big dumb. The outcome was still different Brussels that don't taste like butthole. Street corn and taco trucks. They want like $9 for an elote, it's crazy. Poutine. Best poutine is from whomever is selling it on the street at 2 AM in winter. Chinese takeout. One of the few delicacies we had when I was growing up dirt poor was some good ole General Tso's and fried rice from the local place down the block. I asked my parents years later how much they drowned in Chinese and they said it was only about $20 to feed all 4 of us, and there was always at least a serving left over for my dad to take to work the next day. As an adult I don't think I've managed to get a single order to fall under $40 to feed just myself for 2 meals. Strangely enough, I have found that in eastern North Carolina, my new home, Chinese is actually really cheap. I can get a big order of lo mein for $10 that makes lunch and dinner for me. Fast food is $10 minimum for lunch, so it's still a great deal. I agree with you though, because a similar amount of Chinese in MD was $18. Oxtails for certain. I tried to buy oxtails at the grocery store and they were more expensive than a steak. WTF. Butcher's cuts. Lofts and other industrial spaces turned residential.